I'm Sophia Turner, 25, and I thought walking into my brother's polished Los Angeles office would be just another family check-in. Instead, he slammed his fist on the desk, called me a fool for helping a homeless woman, and disowned me on the spot. Grab a cup of coffee, settle into your favorite spot, and let's share this story together. Before we begin, drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how our stories bring people together from all over. Now relax and enjoy. You're throwing everything away for some homeless woman, he snapped, his voice like a knife. His hand slammed the desk so hard the picture frames rattled. You're a fool, Sophia. You're no sister of mine. The words burned deeper than I expected, each syllable a stone sinking in my chest. I had come to him with hope, with a spark of excitement, with the courage to say out loud that I believed in something more than profit. I told him I wanted to help someone, a stranger, a woman who had nothing, Elena. I gave her a place to stay, a job at the cafe where I worked, and for that, Daniel decided I was worthless. He had promised to fund my dream. $10,000. That was what stood between me and opening the fast food restaurant I had been sketching ideas for since college. Not greasy burgers or deep-fried sugar, but fresh wraps, quinoa bowls, grilled veggies with flavors that tasted like freedom. I had poured my heart into the concept, and Daniel had said yes. For months, he dangled that money like it was already mine, until I dared to help someone he didn't approve of. You think this city cares about your little charity project? His lip curled into a cruel smile. You'll crash and burn before you even start. My voice shook, but I forced myself to stand tall. She deserves a chance, Daniel, just like I did when I begged you to believe in me. Just like you did when Dad gave you your first loan. He scoffed, reached for his phone, and in front of me, canceled the transfer with a swipe. $10,000, gone in a click. He didn't even blink. Get out, he growled, pointing toward the door as if I were some unwanted employee, not his sister. You want to throw your life away? Do it without dragging my name into it. I walked out of that office with my dream in tatters, but I also walked out with fire in my chest. My brother had disowned me, but in that moment, I swore I'd prove him wrong. I'd build something without his money, without his blessing, without his shadow looming over me. I didn't know how, and I didn't know when, but I knew one thing. That woman I helped, Elena, would change everything. At the time, I didn't realize just how much. I thought I was saving her, offering scraps of kindness to someone who needed them. But the truth was, she was about to hand me more than I could ever imagine. She would hand me resilience, purpose, a sense of family I'd been craving my whole life. And years later, when her secret came to light, she would leave my brother begging for a piece of what we built together. But that day, as I left Daniel's office, I couldn't see the future. I only saw the sting of betrayal, the disbelief that the person I had trusted most had turned so vicious. I walked down the glass stairwell, my reflection fractured in 100 shards. I wanted to scream, cry, collapse, but instead, I kept moving. I clutched the strap of my worn-out tote bag and told myself that this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of something bigger, something that didn't need Daniel's approval to exist. Outside, the Los Angeles sun was blinding, but the city felt harsher than ever. People rushed past me in tailored suits, holding iced lattes, speaking into AirPods. To them, I was just another face in the crowd, but inside me, something shifted. Every sneer Daniel had thrown at me became fuel. Every insult was kindling. I didn't have his money, but I had my own fire, and I had Elena, the stranger everyone else dismissed as a burden. When I got back to the tiny studio apartment I rented in Venice Beach, the one with paint peeling off the walls and the sound of waves sneaking in through the cracked window, I sat on the floor and let the silence wrap around me. I replayed his words. You're no sister of mine. The cruelty, the finality. For years, I'd lived in Daniel's shadow, trying to prove I was more than the messy, idealistic little sister. and in one morning, he had carved a line between us that couldn't be crossed. But instead of breaking me, it sparked something I hadn't felt in years: defiance. I pulled out my notebook filled with recipes, business ideas, rough sketches of a menu board, and stared at the pages until my tears dried. My brother thought I was done, but I wasn't. I was just getting started. I didn't know then how far the journey would take me. I didn't know that helping Elena would lead to late nights scrubbing grease off secondhand kitchen equipment, or that we'd face rumors that threatened to destroy us before we even began. I didn't know that Daniel would sink so low, trying to bury me under lies and sabotage. And I definitely didn't know about Elena's past, about the inheritance, the empire she'd once built, the betrayal that tied her fate to Daniel's in ways I couldn't imagine. But I knew this: I was ready to fight. And if you're still here, listening to this, you'll want to stay until the very end, because you won't believe how it all unfolded. Before we dive into what happened next, I want to ask you something. If you were in my shoes that day, standing in front of a sibling who called you a fool and stripped away your dream, what would you do? Would you walk away quietly, or would you fight to prove them wrong? If you're curious about what came next in my story, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. It's your support that gives me the strength to keep sharing stories like this, stories that remind us how fragile family bonds can be, and how powerful resilience truly is. And now, I'll leave you with a question for the comments. Do you think my brother was too cruel when he disowned me for helping Elena, or was he right to protect his money? The weeks after Daniel disowned me felt like walking through fog. I'd go to my cafe job near Venice Beach, pour coffee for strangers, wipe down tables sticky with sugar packets, and try not to replay his words in my head. "You're no sister of mine." Every time those words echoed, I felt the cut again. Still, I couldn't ignore the faint flicker of determination inside me. I told myself, if I don't have Daniel's money, I'll build my dream another way. One late afternoon, as I was stacking mismatched mugs by the cafe window, I saw her again, the woman I'd tried to help, Elena. She sat outside at a weathered patio table, scribbling on a napkin with the stub of a pencil. Her hair was tucked under a faded baseball cap, and her jacket looked 2 sizes too big, but her hands moved with surprising steadiness. I watched her for a moment, curiosity tugging at me. I poured a steaming cup of coffee, carried it outside, and slid it toward her. "It's on the house," I said, my voice soft but steady. "I'm Sophia." She looked up, and for the first time, I really saw her eyes, sharp, clear, alive in a way her worn clothes didn't match. She nodded once and said, "Elena." Her napkin was covered with notes, measurements, ingredients, sketches of meals, recipes. My eyes widened as I leaned closer. "Are you writing menus?" Elena smiled faintly, almost embarrassed. "Just ideas. I used to cook. Old habits." "Why don't you cook anymore?" I asked. The smile faded. Her gaze drifted toward the street, where the traffic roared past. "Sometimes it's better to step away from the spotlight," she murmured. I didn't push. Everyone carries stories they aren't ready to share. But something about the way she handled those notes, the precision, the detail, stayed with me. That night, lying awake in my tiny apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about her recipes. The handwriting was rough, but the ideas were bold. Mediterranean chickpea wraps with citrus drizzle, avocado tuna bowls with chili lime, quinoa salads that didn't taste like punishment but like joy. It was exactly the kind of food I had dreamed of serving. The next morning, I called my best friend, Madison Clark. Madison had been with me through everything, from pulling all-nighters in college to brainstorming our imaginary restaurant while munching granola bars on my couch. If anyone believed in me, it was her. "I met someone," I told her over the phone, my words rushing out. "She knows food like I've never seen before. I think she could help us." Madison didn't hesitate. "Then let's do it. Let's finally make this dream real, Soph." Her faith hit me like a jolt of caffeine. Within days, Madison and I scouted a rundown storefront tucked between a surf shop and a tattoo parlor in Venice Beach. The paint peeled in long strips, the neon sign buzzed half dead, and the kitchen smelled faintly of rust. But the rent was low, and it was ours if we wanted it. "We'll turn this place around," Madison said, her eyes bright with that relentless optimism I both admired and envied. Elena was cautious at first when I invited her to join us. "I don't want to be in anyone's way," she said, tugging her cap lower. "You won't be," I promised. "You'll be the heart of this." To my relief, she agreed. From that moment, the three of us became a team, an unlikely trio bound by stubborn hope. We spent nights scrubbing grease from the stove, repainting the walls in a cheerful turquoise, and begging suppliers to give us credit. The equipment was secondhand, the plates mismatched, but every corner of that little shop started to feel like possibility. Elena came alive in the kitchen. She moved like someone who had been cooking her whole life, adjusting spices with a precision that stunned me. Madison and I would watch as she tasted a sauce, tilted her head, and added just a pinch of cumin or a drizzle of lemon juice. The flavors transformed instantly. "Where did you learn this?" I asked one evening as we huddled over a simmering pot of tomato basil broth. Elena just shrugged, avoiding my eyes. "Here and there. You pick things up." I wanted to push, but the faraway look in her eyes stopped me. She carried something heavy in her silence, and I knew she would share it when she was ready. For now, her gift was enough. But money remained our biggest obstacle. Every time I looked at the bills stacked on the counter, my chest tightened. Our savings dwindled faster than I could breathe, and suppliers started calling, asking for payments we didn't have. One evening, I swallowed my pride and dialed my mom's number. "Mom, I need help," I admitted, explaining the restaurant, explaining Elena, explaining the vision. Her sigh crackled through the line. "Sophia, I can lend you $5,000, but you know Daniel has always been the one with business sense. If he says this is a mistake..." I clenched my fist around the phone. She didn't believe in me. Not really, not the way she believed in him. But I took the money, knowing it would buy us at least another month. The community wasn't much kinder. Locals whispered when they saw Elena behind the counter. "Isn't that the homeless woman?" someone muttered one afternoon. "Who trusts a cook like that?" The words cut, but Elena didn't flinch. She kept her head down and worked, her hands moving steady as ever. Madison, on the other hand, wouldn't let it slide. One night, as we unpacked a delivery of mismatched plates, she grabbed my shoulders. "We're not doing this for them," she said fiercely. "We're doing this for us, for you, for her." Her conviction steadied me, but the doubt still crept in at night when I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, wondering if Daniel was right. Could we really pull this off? Then one evening, Elena caught me at the counter, staring at the stack of unpaid bills. She sat me down, her voice firm but gentle. "You've got fire, Sophia," she said. "I've seen people try and fail, but you're different. Don't let them dim that." I looked at her, and for the first time, I realized she wasn't just talking about the restaurant. She was talking about me. We pushed forward, working late into the night, testing recipe after recipe. Elena's creations became our secret weapon. Madison's energy kept us moving, even when our hands ached from scrubbing and our feet throbbed from standing all day. And me, I learned to carry the weight of their belief. I didn't know it then, but Elena's quiet confidence, her belief in me, would become the turning point of everything. She wasn't just helping us cook. She was helping us build something no one else believed we could. And deep down, I sensed there was more to her than she let on. Something bigger. Something she wasn't ready to share. Opening a restaurant in Los Angeles is like planting a flower in the middle of the desert. You need grit, water, and a miracle. For us, it felt like we were short on all three. The first few weeks at our tiny Venice Beach storefront were brutal. We put up a hand-painted sign that read, "Fresh fast, healthy, real." I thought it was catchy, but the locals weren't convinced. On opening day, Only 3 customers walked through the door. 2 curious surfers in wetsuits and a grandmother with her granddaughter. They tried our Mediterranean chickpea wraps and avocado tuna bowls, nodded politely, and left. I prayed they'd come back, but the next day our shop sat nearly empty again. Every morning, Madison bounced in with her trademark optimism, adjusting the chalkboard menu, rearranging the mismatched chairs, humming like the silence didn't bother her. Elena stayed in the kitchen, quiet, steady, perfecting sauces that no one seemed eager to taste. And me? I stood behind the counter, pretending I was calm while my chest was a storm of panic. The whispers started almost immediately. Venice Beach was tight-knit, and people noticed Elena. I heard them murmuring as they passed. "Isn't that the homeless woman who sleeps by the pier?" Some even said it louder inside the restaurant. One afternoon, as Elena plated a quinoa salad, a man leaned across the counter and asked, "So, is this really safe? I mean, she's your cook?" I bit my tongue so hard I thought I'd taste blood. Elena's hands stilled for a second before she set the plate down with quiet dignity. She didn't look at him, didn't defend herself, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the shadow of years of judgment she'd endured. It broke something in me. That night, Madison stormed into the back room, slamming a stack of unpaid invoices onto the table. "I don't care what they say," she said, her voice sharp. "We're not here for them. We're here because we believe in this. Because you believe in this, Sophia." I nodded, but doubt clung to me like smoke. The numbers didn't lie. The bills were piling up, the rent was due, and our fridge was half empty. I'd already swallowed my pride once and called Mom, asking for help. She'd sent $5,000, but her voice still carried Daniel's echo. If he says this is a mistake, maybe it is. I wanted her support. Instead, I got her doubt. It wasn't just the money. It was the loneliness of trying to build something no one else believed in. At night, lying on the pull-out mattress in my studio apartment, I replayed every fight with Daniel, every look of pity from my mother, every whisper about Elena. And then, just when I thought the weight might crush me, I'd see Madison's grin or hear Elena say quietly, "Add more lemon. Trust me." Those tiny moments kept me breathing. We hustled harder than ever. Madison hit the local gyms and yoga studios, handing out flyers and free samples. I stayed up late making social media posts that barely got 10 likes. Elena experimented endlessly, creating new recipes that blended her mysterious expertise with bold LA flavors. Sometimes she'd scribble notes in a battered notebook, frown, and tear out the page before I could read it. It was as if she carried a map she wasn't ready to share. One night, I found her sitting alone in the kitchen after hours, staring at a pan of roasted vegetables. The smell of garlic and rosemary filled the air. "You okay?" I asked, sliding onto a stool. She hesitated, then finally said, "This isn't about me anymore, Sophia. This is about you. Don't let anyone, your brother, the whispers, even me, make you doubt what you're building." Her words rooted themselves deep inside me. She saw something in me I hadn't fully seen in myself. But words didn't pay the bills. By the end of the second month, we were on the brink. Our supplier called twice a day demanding payment. The landlord left a note under our door. "Rent overdue. Last warning." I paced the kitchen like a caged animal, wondering if Daniel was right, if I was just a naive dreamer too soft for the real world. And then, just as the shadows felt longest, a spark of hope arrived. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. A young couple came in, lured by the smell of Elena's citrus-grilled chicken. They ordered, ate, and then, something I hadn't seen before, called 2 friends to join them. Within an hour, our little dining area buzzed with laughter and clinking forks. "This is unreal," one of them said, nudging his friend. "Healthy food that actually tastes good." I nearly cried as I wiped down the counter, watching them devour every bite. For the first time, the restaurant felt alive. Word spread slowly, like a cautious rumor. A fitness coach brought her clients after their morning run. A mother stopped by with her kids, then returned the next week with her book club. Each new face was like oxygen to us. The money was still tight, the doubts still whispered in the corners of my mind, but that spark grew. For every person who sneered at Elena, another came back for seconds. For every night I lay awake terrified of failure, there was a morning when the smell of Elena's cooking reminded me why we were fighting. One evening, as we locked up, Madison clapped her hands and said, "Soph, do you feel it? We're on to something. They can't ignore us forever." I smiled, tired but hopeful. Maybe she was right. Maybe this wasn't just a dream on life support. Maybe it was the beginning of something real. I didn't know then that recognition was just around the corner, that one review would turn our spark into a flame. But standing in that tiny shop with peeling paint and secondhand chairs, I let myself believe for the first time. We had a chance. The third month of running our little Venice Beach shop felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. One step forward and we could soar, one wrong move and we'd crash. The bills still piled high, the landlord still tapped his foot impatiently, and every night I fell asleep with my chest tight from anxiety. Yet, there was a flicker of change. Customers who had once walked by with skeptical glances were beginning to peek in. A few brave ones stepped through the door, tried our food, and came back with friends. It was still fragile. Too fragile. But I held on to every smile, every nod of approval, like they were lifelines. Then, one Wednesday afternoon, everything shifted. The bell over the door jingled, and in walked a woman in a sharp navy blazer, her hair pulled into a sleek bun, a notebook tucked under her arm. She moved with quiet confidence, the kind that said she wasn't just another customer. She introduced herself simply, "Carla James, Los Angeles Eats." My stomach flipped. I knew the name. Carla was one of the most influential food critics in the city. Her reviews could lift a restaurant into the spotlight, or bury it overnight. I tried to smile as my palms grew clammy. "Welcome," I said, praying my voice didn't tremble. "What can we get you?" She studied the menu board for a long moment before settling on one of Elena's creations, the Mediterranean chickpea wrap with roasted peppers and tahini drizzle. I shot a look toward the kitchen, where Elena stood poised like a general about to lead her troops into battle. Without a word, she began to work. I hovered anxiously as Elena plated the dish. She moved with her usual calm, arranging each ingredient as though it were art. Madison, sensing my nerves, nudged me. "Relax. If anyone can win her over, it's Elena." When Carla took her first bite, the room went still. I swear even the buzzing neon sign outside held its breath. She chewed slowly, scribbled something in her notebook, then took another bite. A smile flickered across her face. Not big, not dramatic, but enough to make my heart lurch with hope. "This is bold," she said finally, her eyes locking on mine. "Balanced flavors, fresh ingredients, and creative execution. You're onto something here." I almost collapsed with relief. Carla left quietly, but the next morning, her review appeared online. She called our food a refreshing twist in LA's fast casual scene, and praised Elena's wrap as the dish that might redefine healthy fast food. She even mentioned my name, writing, "Sophia Turner is building something more than a restaurant. She's building a movement." Within hours, our phones buzzed non-stop. Orders poured in, and customers crowded our tiny shop until the mismatched chairs filled and people lined up outside. Madison darted between tables like a whirlwind, taking orders, cracking jokes, making everyone feel welcome. Elena stayed in the kitchen, her hands a blur as she churned out plate after plate, never losing focus. I manned the counter, trying to smile even as my head spun with the rush. By the end of that day, I collapsed into a chair, my legs aching, but my spirits soaring. "We did it," I whispered. "We actually did it." Madison flopped down beside me, sweat beading her forehead. "Soph, this is just the beginning." She was right. 2 weeks later, we got an email that nearly knocked me off my feet. It was an invitation to the Los Angeles Food Culture Festival, one of the city's biggest culinary events. Hundreds of restaurants applied every year, but only a handful were chosen to showcase their food. And somehow, we'd made the cut. I read the email aloud to Elena and Madison, my voice shaking. They want us there. They said our food deserves a spotlight. Madison squealed so loud the neighbor's dog barked. This is it! This is our chance to show everyone we belong! Elena didn't squeal, didn't even smile at first. She just nodded, her eyes thoughtful. Then, finally, she said softly, "We'll need something new, something unforgettable." Over the next weeks, the three of us worked like our lives depended on it, because, in a way, they did. Madison juggled supply orders, trained 2 part-time workers, and designed flyers with a flair I didn't know she had. Elena experimented endlessly, eventually unveiling a dish that made us all pause in awe. A spicy mango chicken wrap, with just enough heat to surprise you and just enough sweetness to keep you hooked. "This will wow them," she said with quiet certainty. The pressure was crushing, but for the first time, it was the kind of pressure that pushed us forward, not down. Every night we stayed until midnight, practicing plating, timing each dish, making sure every detail was perfect. And through it all, something shifted in me. I wasn't just chasing a dream anymore. I was fighting for a vision, for a team, for a chance to prove that kindness and resilience could thrive even in a city as cutthroat as LA. Still, beneath the triumph, I couldn't ignore the shadow that lingered. Every time I saw our growing crowds, every time I read a glowing review, I felt Daniel's absence like a thorn. I knew he'd see the articles, hear the whispers of our success. And I knew him well enough to realize he wouldn't stay silent for long. But that night, sitting on the curb outside our shop with Madison and Elena, eating leftover wraps under the glow of the Venice Beach streetlights, I let myself believe in the momentum. For once, the future looked bright. "Do you feel it?" Madison asked, leaning back against the wall. "This is bigger than us now." I looked at Elena, who was watching the waves in the distance, her expression unreadable. She didn't answer, but I saw something in her eyes. Something like pride, but also something heavier, like a secret waiting to be told. I didn't know it then, but our recognition had painted a target on our backs. And Daniel Turner, the brother who had disowned me, was about to make his move. The buzz from Carla James's review and the invitation to the Los Angeles Food Culture Festival should have been the happiest chapter of my life. For the first time, I felt like our little shop in Venice Beach wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Customers lined up at the door, our social media posts finally picked up steam, and even the landlord, who once looked at me with pity, now greeted me with a smile, as if he'd always believed in us. But success doesn't just attract cheerleaders, it attracts enemies too. And in my case, the enemy wore the same last name as me. It started with whispers. A woman marched into the shop one afternoon, her brows furrowed. She demanded to know if our chicken was truly organic because she'd heard rumors that we cut corners. I blinked, caught off guard. "Of course it's organic," I said, handing her the supplier's receipt. She studied it with suspicion, then left without ordering. The next day, a group of college students came in, phones in hand, laughing. One of them pointed to our smoothie menu and said, "I heard these are just watered-down sugar bombs." I froze. We'd prided ourselves on using real fruit, carefully balanced ingredients, nothing fake. But their mocking tone spread through the room, planting doubt in other customers' ears. Within a week, online reviews appeared on foodie forums. Overpriced and sketchy. "Don't trust their ingredients." "Heard their fish isn't even fresh." Each comment was like a punch to the gut. I stayed up nights, refreshing the page, my chest tightening as our star rating dipped lower. Madison caught me hunched over my laptop one evening, my face pale from the glow of the screen. "Soph, stop reading those," she said firmly, snapping it shut. "You know where this is coming from." And I did. I could hear Daniel's voice behind every cruel word. Our suspicions were confirmed when one of our suppliers called. He lowered his voice and said, "Sophia, off the record, I overheard Daniel at a networking event last night. He told people your restaurant is a scam. He said you're too naive to know how the industry works." I felt my blood run cold. This wasn't just sibling rivalry anymore. Daniel was trying to bury me. The next hit came harder. Our landlord stopped by, his expression apologetic but firm. "I've had an offer on this building," he said. "A corporate group wants to buy it outright. They're offering more than I can turn down. If it goes through, you'll have to vacate." My stomach twisted. "Who's the buyer?" I asked, dread already curling in my gut. He hesitated before admitting, "Some shell company tied to Turner Dining Group." Daniel. My own brother was trying to buy the ground out from under me. I stormed into the back room, slamming my hands on the counter. "He's sabotaging us!" I spat, my voice shaking with fury. The rumors, the fake reviews, now the building. He's behind it all. Madison's jaw tightened. "He's scared. You're winning, Soph, and he can't handle it." Elena stayed quiet, her knife hovering over a cutting board piled with fresh mangoes. Her silence spoke louder than words. She knew something deeper, but wasn't ready to share. For days, the weight of Daniel's sabotage pressed down on me. I couldn't walk into the shop without wondering who believed the lies. Customers still came, but I caught their lingering glances, their whispered questions. Each one felt like sand slipping through my fingers. One night, as we cleaned up after closing, Madison grabbed a rag and hurled it at the counter in frustration. "He's playing dirty, Soph. We can't just sit here and take it." "I know," I admitted, sinking into a chair. "But what do we do? He's got money, connections, power." "We've got—" I glanced around our tiny shop. Chipped paint, secondhand tables, exhaustion etched into our faces. "This." Elena set down her knife and finally spoke. Her voice was low, steady. "You've got more than you think. You've got heart. That's something he'll never understand." Her words steadied me, but the storm didn't stop. The Los Angeles Food Culture Festival loomed closer, and the pressure was suffocating. We needed to shine there more than ever, to prove the rumors false, to reclaim our name. Madison drew up lists, planned schedules, and practically lived at the shop. Elena worked late, tweaking her spicy mango chicken wrap until it was flawless. And me, I carried the fear in my chest but refused to let it show. Then came the breaking point. It was a Friday night when my cousin's invitation arrived. Tara was throwing her 28th birthday party at a rooftop venue in downtown LA. Tara had always been the peacemaker in our family, the cousin who believed in me even when others didn't. She made it clear, "You have to come, Sophia. I want everyone to celebrate you too. People are talking about your restaurant." I wanted to say no. The thought of seeing Daniel made my stomach churn, but Madison insisted. "You can't hide. If he's spreading lies in front of people, you need to stand there and show them who you really are." So we went. The rooftop was strung with golden lights, the city skyline blazing behind it. Industry folks mingled with Tara's friends, laughter rising above the music. Tara rushed to greet me, hugging me tight. "I'm so proud of you, Soph," she whispered. "Your restaurant is all anyone's talking about." For a moment, warmth filled me. But then I spotted him. Daniel, standing by the bar in his tailored suit, laughing with a group of executives. His confidence radiated, but when his eyes met mine, I saw the sneer. As Tara raised her glass for a toast, she called out, "To family and chasing dreams, like Sophia's restaurant, built with heart and incredible food." The crowd clapped, some turning to smile at me. And that's when Daniel struck. "Dreams?" he scoffed, stepping forward. His voice sliced through the room. "She's betting her future on a homeless woman's scraps. That's not a dream, that's a joke." The air went silent. My blood boiled. Her name is Elena, I said, my voice steady despite the fire inside me. And her food is better than anything you've ever done. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Daniel laughed coldly. You're all fooled by her charity case act. Trust me, this little restaurant won't last. Before I could respond, someone else spoke. A man standing near Daniel, his face familiar though I couldn't place him at first. His voice was calm but clear. She's not a charity case. And Sophia's restaurant isn't a joke. The man stepped forward, introducing himself as Lucas Hayes, one of Daniel's former colleagues. He looked directly at me, then at Elena. I know exactly who Elena is, and I know what Daniel did to her. My heart pounded as the crowd leaned in. Lucas's words cut through the lies like sunlight breaking through clouds. And in that instant, I realized Daniel's sabotage wasn't just about me. It was about something much deeper, a truth tied to Elena's past that he'd spent years trying to bury. If this story touches you, drop a number 1 in the comments. Every one reminds us that these stories matter, and it gives us the motivation to keep sharing them with you. The rooftop was buzzing with whispered speculation, but all I could hear was Lucas's voice. His words echoed in my head. I know exactly who Elena is, and I know what Daniel did to her. I turned to Elena, searching her face. For years, she had deflected every question about her past, her eyes clouded with memories she refused to share. Now, under the glow of string lights and the curious stares of half of Los Angeles's food industry, she stood still, shoulders squared, jaw set, eyes brimming with a quiet storm. Daniel's smirk faltered for the first time. He jabbed a finger toward Lucas. Don't you dare! His voice cracked, thinly veiled with panic. But Lucas didn't back down. He stepped closer, his voice steady. You want to play this game, Daniel? Fine. Let's tell them the truth. The crowd leaned in, wine glasses frozen halfway to lips. Tara looked between us, her face tight with worry. Elena isn't just some homeless woman Sophia plucked off the streets, Lucas said. She was once one of the most respected chefs in Los Angeles. She built a restaurant empire, Elena's Table. Her recipes, her brand, her vision. People traveled from all over California to taste her dishes. Gasps erupted. Heads turned toward Elena, who stood motionless, her hands clasped in front of her. Lucas continued, his voice rising. And do you know who stole it all from her? Daniel Turner? Your golden boy? Your so-called business genius. He used her recipes, passed them off as his own, and leveraged her work to climb the corporate ladder. All at once, the rooftop air grew heavy. Daniel's face turned crimson. That's a lie, he spat, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. My heart thundered. I looked at Elena, silently begging her to confirm or deny. She finally lifted her gaze, meeting mine. Her voice was calm but full of grief. It's true, Sophia. The words hit me like a tidal wave. I staggered back, Madison catching my elbow. Elena went on, her voice trembling yet strong. Years ago, I trusted him. Daniel was young, ambitious, charming. He convinced me to partner with him, to expand Elena's Table into something bigger. I gave him everything, my recipes, my techniques, my trust, but when financial troubles hit, he turned on me. He cut me out, claimed my recipes as his own, and signed contracts that left me penniless. In 1 year, my restaurants collapsed, my reputation shattered. I lost everything. Her words painted a picture of betrayal so deep it made my chest ache. Around us, guests murmured in disbelief, some shaking their heads, others glaring at Daniel. Daniel's voice cracked with desperation. She's exaggerating. She was reckless. I saved her career. No! Elena snapped, her voice slicing through the night like a blade. For the first time since I'd known her, I heard the fire of the chef she once was. You didn't save me, Daniel. You destroyed me. You destroyed everything I built. Silence fell. The music had stopped. Even the servers froze mid-step. The city lights beyond the rooftop seemed to dim, as if the whole world was listening. Lucas pulled a small folder from his jacket, holding it up. I kept copies, emails, contracts, proof of what he did. I stayed silent for years, but watching Sophia fight the same lies, watching Daniel do to her what he did to Elena, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. The crowd erupted, phones were out, recording. Some guests muttered Daniel's name like a curse. Tara stepped forward, her face pale. "Daniel, is this true?" Daniel's eyes darted, sweat glistening at his temples. He opened his mouth, but no words came. For the first time in my life, I saw him cornered, trapped by his own greed. I stepped forward, my chest burning with a mix of rage and heartbreak. "You stole from her," I said, my voice shaking but growing stronger with every word. "And then you tried to crush me the same way, all because you couldn't stand the thought of me succeeding without you." Daniel sneered, his mask cracking. "You think this little sob story will save you?" The world doesn't care about charity cases and failed chefs. But his words fell flat. The crowd had already turned. Elena lifted her chin. "I may have lost everything once, but I found something stronger. People who believe in me. Sophia gave me a second chance when you left me on the street. That's worth more than all the restaurants in LA." Tears pricked my eyes. I reached for her hand, squeezing it. "We'll make sure you never lose it again." Madison stepped beside us, fire blazing in her eyes. "Daniel, you're finished. Everyone here knows it." And for once, he didn't argue. He just stood there, chest heaving, as the reality sank in. His empire wasn't invincible. His lies weren't unshakable. As the party dissolved into a storm of whispers and accusations, Tara pulled me aside. "Sophia, this is going to blow up. People will talk. The press will get wind." I nodded, my mind already racing. "Let them." The truth needs to come out. Later that night, as Madison drove us back to Venice Beach, the weight of Elena's confession pressed down on me. She sat in the back seat, staring out the window, silent tears streaking her cheeks. I wanted to comfort her, to promise her everything would be okay. But all I could think about was how deep Daniel's betrayal went, how much damage he'd done, not just to me, but to her, to our family, to the truth itself. And yet, beneath the pain, something else stirred. Resolve. Daniel had tried to bury us in lies, but now, the truth was clawing its way to the surface, and there was no stopping it. The morning after Tara's rooftop party, the phone in our Venice Beach restaurant wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, bloggers, even curious customers all wanted to know the same thing. Was it true? Had Daniel Turner stolen Elena's recipes and built his success on betrayal? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing. The tide had shifted. For years, Daniel controlled the narrative, confident, polished, untouchable. But now, cracks spread across his empire, and people were finally starting to see him for who he was. Lucas Hayes showed up at the shop just as I was wiping down tables. His suit was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. He carried a leather folder tucked under his arm. "I couldn't sleep last night," he admitted. "I kept thinking about Elena, about how I helped Daniel cover it up. I was weak back then, but I'm not going to stay silent anymore." He set the folder on the table and slid it toward me. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were printed emails, contracts, and financial statements. The evidence was overwhelming. Messages where Daniel discussed taking Elena's recipes, contracts transferring ownership of Elena's table to his company under shady circumstances, even wire transfers to freelance bloggers he'd paid to smear our restaurant. Madison leaned over my shoulder, her eyes widening. This is enough to bury him." I looked at Elena. She sat quietly at the end of the table, her hands folded in her lap, her expression unreadable. "Are you ready for this?" I asked softly. She nodded, her eyes glistening but steady. "It's time." That afternoon, Madison reached out to a contact she had at the Los Angeles Times. His name was Robert Chen, an investigative journalist known for exposing corruption in the city's business world. He agreed to meet us in his office downtown. Walking into the LA Times building, my heart pounded so hard I thought the receptionist could hear it. Robert welcomed us into his office, his notepad already open. Lucas handed him the folder. Robert flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing deeper with every document. "This is damning," he said finally. "If these emails check out, Daniel Turner could face not just a ruined reputation, but legal trouble too." A thrill of justice surged through me, but fear followed close behind. Daniel wasn't the type to go down without a fight. Robert leaned back in his chair. "I'll need to verify the sources, cross-check the contracts. But once this hits print, it won't just be gossip, it'll be fact. Are you ready for the fallout?" I looked at Elena. She met my gaze, and for the first time since her confession, I saw something like hope flicker in her eyes. "We're ready," I said. 3 days later, the article dropped. The headline screamed across the top of the website. "Restaurant mogul Daniel Turner linked to recipe theft, smear campaign against rival." The piece was brutal in its detail. It laid out how Daniel had stolen Elena's recipes, manipulated contracts, and bankrolled bloggers to discredit my restaurant. Screenshots of the emails, excerpts from contracts, even testimony from Lucas were all there for the public to see. The story exploded. Social media caught fire. Food bloggers who once echoed Daniel's lies now blasted him. Customers flooded our page with support, apologizing for believing the rumors. "We're with you, Sophia," one woman commented under our latest post. By evening, local news stations picked up the story. Daniel's carefully crafted image as LA's food industry golden boy crumbled in a matter of hours. But the biggest blow came the next morning. Daniel's company, Turner Dining Group, released a statement. They were deeply disturbed by the revelations and had decided to terminate Daniel effective immediately. He wasn't just losing his job, he was losing his entire empire. Madison burst into the shop, waving her phone like a victory flag. "Soph, he's out! They canned him!" Customers in line clapped. Someone shouted, "Justice!" I should have felt elated, but instead I felt relieved, like a weight I'd carried for years had finally slipped off my shoulders. That night, after the shop closed, Elena called Madison and me into the kitchen. She laid a thick folder on the counter. For a second, my heart sank. I thought it was more bad news. But when she opened it, my breath caught. "These," she said, her voice steady, "are the original ownership papers for Elena's table. They were never transferred legally. My lawyer confirmed it years ago, but I was too broken to fight. I'm giving them to you, Sophia." I blinked, stunned. "To me?" She nodded. "You gave me a second chance when I had nothing. You believed in me when the world didn't. This brand, this legacy, it belongs with someone who understands what it means to fight for it." Tears welled in my eyes. "Elena, I can't. This is yours." "It was mine," she corrected gently. "Now it's ours. Together, we can rebuild it. You, me, Madison, we'll make it stronger than ever." Madison sniffled, wiping her eyes with the back of her sleeve. "Okay, but just to be clear, I'm not painting another restaurant by hand," she joked, breaking the tension. We laughed, the kind of laugh that feels like fresh air after being underwater too long. But Elena wasn't done. She pulled out one more envelope and slid it across the counter. Inside was a letter from a law firm. My eyes widened as I read. "Elena," I whispered, "this is an inheritance." She nodded. "When my father passed years ago, I was supposed to inherit a significant estate. But Daniel manipulated me into believing I wasn't entitled to it, that I'd lose it all if I didn't sign certain documents. What he didn't know was that my father's will left a separate trust untouched by any of Daniel's contracts. I've been holding on to it, too ashamed to face it. But now, It's time. I looked up at her, my hands shaking. How much are we talking about? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Enough to rebuild everything Daniel stole. Enough to leave him speechless. For a moment, the kitchen was silent. The hum of the fridge, the soft buzz of the neon sign outside. Those were the only sounds grounding me as the magnitude of her words sank in. Elena had been more than a partner, more than a mentor. She was about to become the key to a future bigger than I'd ever dreamed. And Daniel, for all his cruelty, had no idea what was coming. The morning of the Los Angeles Food Culture Festival arrived with a golden haze over the city. I woke up before dawn, my heart pounding with both fear and exhilaration. Today wasn't just about serving food, it was about proving who we were, about reclaiming Elena's legacy and building something Daniel could never touch. Our booth sat along the waterfront, tucked between a sushi pop-up from Santa Monica and a vegan bakery from Silver Lake. By the time we finished setting up, a crowd had already formed. Madison adjusted the menu board, her ponytail bouncing as she called out, "We're live in 5, Soph! Let's make history!" Elena stood at the stove, her hands steady, her face glowing in the morning light. She plated our signature spicy mango chicken wrap, drizzling the sauce with the precision of a painter signing her masterpiece. Watching her, I realized this was more than food. It was redemption. By mid-morning, lines stretched down the boardwalk. Customers snapped photos. Influencers filmed TikToks of our colorful plates. Carla James, the critic who'd first noticed us, stopped by, taking careful notes while savoring every bite. She gave me a small nod before leaving, a silent promise that another glowing review was on the way. Then, just before noon, an announcement crackled over the speakers. This year's featured cooking demo will be hosted by Turner Kitchen and Sophia Turner. The crowd erupted in cheers. My chest tightened as Madison grabbed my hand. "That's you, Soph. Go show them." I stepped onto the stage, the ocean breeze tangling my hair, and looked out at the sea of faces. For a moment, nerves threatened to choke me. Then I spotted Tara waving wildly in the front row, Lucas beside her, and Elena just behind the curtain, her eyes full of quiet pride. I breathed deep and began. When I started this journey, people told me it wouldn't work, that fast food couldn't be healthy, that I couldn't succeed without money, without a safety net, without family support. But today, I'm here to prove them wrong. Not because I did this alone, but because I had people who believed in me, even when it was risky. The crowd clapped, but I wasn't finished. "One of those people is Elena," I said, gesturing for her to join me. She stepped out, and the audience gasped, recognizing the chef from headlines now swirling across the city. She was once a star of the city's culinary world. She lost everything because of betrayal, but she never lost her gift. And now, she's back where she belongs. The applause was thunderous. Elena smiled, her eyes wet with emotion, and together we prepared the dish for the demo. The aroma of citrus and spice filled the air as cameras flashed. When the audience sampled the food, a wave of delight spread through the crowd. Someone shouted, "This is the best thing here!" By the end of the day, our booth had sold out. We weren't just a hit, we were the talk of the festival. That night, back at the shop, Elena handed me another folder. Inside were the finalized documents transferring ownership of Elena's table to me, along with details of her inheritance. The amount was staggering, enough to fund not just one restaurant, but a chain across California. "I don't want revenge," Elena said softly. "I want rebirth. With you, Sophia. Let's build something new." "Something honest." Tears streamed down my face as Madison hugged us both, laughing through her sobs. "Guess we're not sleeping for the next 5 years," she joked. And she was right. Within months, we opened our second location in Santa Monica, its rooftop garden overlooking the Pacific. Then another in Pasadena, with an open kitchen where customers could watch every dish prepared. Each location carried Elena's recipes, Madison's creativity, and my unshakable drive. but we didn't stop at restaurants. Inspired by Elena's resilience, we launched a community program called Second Chances Kitchen. We hired people struggling with homelessness, teaching them culinary skills, giving them stable jobs. Watching a young trainee flip his first perfect omelet, his grin wide as the sun, filled me with more pride than any review ever could. Elena thrived as our mentor, guiding staff with patience and precision. Madison spearheaded marketing campaigns that turned our story into a movement. In me, I found my rhythm as a leader, no longer haunted by Daniel's shadow. As for Daniel, his downfall was swift and merciless. After the LA Times article, his name became toxic in the industry. Restaurants cut ties, investors pulled funding, and whispers of lawsuits circled like vultures. Tara later told me he'd left Los Angeles, taking a low-level job at a diner in Nevada. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but instead I felt nothing. His destruction wasn't my victory. My victory was standing in my own kitchen, side by side with people who truly believed in me. Months later, on the grand opening night of our third restaurant in San Diego, my mother showed up. For years, she'd favored Daniel, believing in his polished charm over my shaky dreams. But as she walked into the dining room, her eyes scanned the packed tables, the laughter, the joy. She pulled me into a hug. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I should have believed in you sooner." "I'm proud of you, Sophia." Her words healed wounds I didn't even realize I still carried. That night, as I stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing city, I thought about everything we had endured. Daniel's betrayal, Elena's fall, the lies, the sabotage. Yet here we were, stronger than ever. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who walk into your life when you least expect it, the ones who see your worth when others don't. Elena, Madison, Tara, even Lucas, they were my family now, and together we'd built something unbreakable. As the cheers from the dining room swelled, I raised my glass and whispered to myself, "Here's to the new beginning."